Hi, everyone. Welcome to LearnTech Asia's Access to Jobs webinar series. My name is Charlie Darapak. I'm the editor-in-chief of LearnTech Asia. Thanks for joining us today. At LearnTechAsia.com, we are an independent and impartial platform telling stories of learning innovation in K through 12, tertiary, workplace learning, upskilling, and reskilling in all communities in Asia. We also host conferences and online events to highlight opportunities powered by learning technology. Today's Access to Jobs webinar focuses on e-commerce. Consumer behavior was already evolving before COVID-19. We've seen in the news retailers such as Robinsons in Singapore shutting their doors. In many ways, the pandemic accelerated this transformation, where due to lockdowns, people are now browsing and buying products and services from the safety of their homes. With a growing middle class, rising internet penetration, and digital payment choices, the e-commerce sector continues to grow exponentially in Asia. Today, we bring together experts from different sectors in e-commerce. They'll be sharing insights into how the industry operates and give you a better understanding of the jobs and skills needed to stay relevant in the online retail industry. Participating in the discussion today are Candice Ong, Chief Commercial Officer of Shopback, Lee Tong Tan, Growth Marketing Strategist at Shopback, Chi Soon Ung, Managing Director of Carousel Singapore, and Dahi Kang, UX Researcher at Coupang. Moderating today's discussion is David Lee, Head of Digital Commerce and Convenership from the Singapore Institute of Retail Studies, a nationally appointed anchor provider for training and consulting. David is also the convener of the global ISO TC321 e-commerce standard. In his tenure, he has led the digital transformation of the retail industry with industry leaders in Alibaba, Amazon, eBay, Lazada, and Qoo10. He headed business at GM and was a VP for the Asia Pacific region for Hewlett-Packard, Motorola, and Dell. For those of you watching, please type in your questions in the comment window at any time during the session and we'll get them to the stage. I'll hand over the webinar to our moderator, David, and let him introduce the panel. Welcome to the stage, everyone.
Right, thank you, Charlie. So allow me to share my decks. Okay. Sorry, something. Can you allow me to share the slides? Okay, let me see if I can do it. Charlie, can you see my slides?
We don't see your slides right now. We just see you. Okay. Okay, I think we see them now.
See it now? So you see my slide now? Charlie?
Yes, we see them. Please proceed.
Okay, good. Right, sorry about this short technical problems. Right, good morning, everyone. My name is David Lee, as Charlie's briefly shared about me. So what you're going through for the day, for the programs, as you have noticed, Charlie have the welcome notes. That will be followed by me, a short introduction about this webinars, what is it about, and so on. And then we are very privileged to have all the prominent speakers, experts today with us, right? We have Chi Soon with us. He's the Managing Director for Carousel. And we also cover topics like marketing, right? In the era of e-commerce and so on, how does actually marketing evolve? So we are very glad to have Candice Ong with us. She's the Chief Commercial Officer of ShopBack, and together with her is Lee Tong. She's a growth marketing strategist. Very interesting job title, right? So you can see that we are looking for jobs and so on. These are the new exciting job titles coming with e-commerce. Next, we have from Coupang, Dahi Kang, Miss Dahi Kang. She's the director for UX Rescue, another very interesting title. She will be sharing about UX in e-commerce. So after all this, if you have any question and so on, you can feel free to put in the questions, and then we have about 15 to 20 minutes time to answer the questions, right? And then at the end, we will actually do the wrap up and so on. So very quickly, I will give the introduction of this program today, right? So what's this program about is today we are talking about e-commerce industry. And e-commerce industry has changed dramatically. Earlier, amongst all the speakers, we are talking about e-commerce. Times has changed, even the last 1 year, right? Pandemic and so on. If you realize that today, basically with the pandemic, it actually accelerate not only the consumer going online, but also making business actually to have a convergence of technologies and so on. So today, if you go to any malls, there'll be facial recognitions and support with the AI and so on. So a lot of people is concerned PDBA. They are concerned about being located and so on. No choice. If you go into temperature screening and so on with the facial recognition, the enablement is already there. And with that enablement, right, in Singapore, actually, we passed through a bill in November. It's about sharing of data, not to the details, but sharing data amongst businesses to make sure the customer experience is much better. So you can see on the leftmost bottom corner, if you go to anywhere in near future, right, with the facial recognition, with the camera around, with the AI, they know exactly it's time for you to have a cup of coffee, whether to have a mocha or for latte and so on. The AI behind will actually know what to offer to you. And then if you look at countries today, especially in Singapore, it's been recognized as the smart city, all connected, but not only connected, but it's with the AI empowerment. And moving forward, you can hear from all the telco companies that are moving 5G into the malls and so on. What does that mean to you? It means that actually you can watch movies in the comfort of in the mall itself, right? While waiting for your wife for shopping and so on. Not so boring anymore, right? But main thing is that for business itself, you can actually do live streaming, right? No blockage and so on. You look at the right-hand corner, MarTech, EdTech is coming in, which later on, I believe, all our experts will be sharing some parts of these areas. And then mobile definitely is the devices. And then moving forward, we can see a lot of drones and also menace carts moving around in the city. So this is about myself. I used to work for these great companies, which Charlie already mentioned. All right, I just want to bring you a quick journey about Singapore Institute of Retail Studies, which I belong to. By going through this journey, you understand that how retail has evolved in the Singapore scenarios, right? We are the anchor providers, training providers for the retail industry appointed by the government, right? So in 2017, we are going to Smart Nation. SIRS is tasked to lead the whole retail, going to digital transformation. So that's the time we actually connect with all the major brands like Amazon, eBay, Alibaba, and so on. That is very helpful because actually we are bringing the latest changes in the market to the business itself so that they can actually run the business itself better in all these e-marketplaces. 2018, we actually moved up the scale. We actually trained the consultants in Singapore, traditional retail consultants, to go into digital upskilling, right? So from that onwards, they actually have no accident to actually promote digital transformation. 2019, we again changed the industry again. We actually have a cross-industry creation. This time around is with Singapore Media Academy. We want to train new media talents like those who are going to live streamings and so on. So it is actually ahead of time after looking back, 2019, right? 2020, all those who actually gone through all these trainings, they benefit from the lockdown and so on. Sorry to say that. We have business selling this traditional medical herbs and so on, medical hall. Her live streaming in the Facebook used to be about 130, go up to 30,000 views for her videos, right? So basically, it's upskilling for all the new media talents and so on. And then we also work with Enterprise Singapore to help businesses to go to cross-border selling to multiple platforms to all the countries and so on. Last year, because of the lockdown, we actually worked with this Scash Next to help the mom and pop stores in the heartland, right, to go into having a mobile store online. Even the store is closed down and so on, they still receive orders from customers. And the customer is coming back to them is because through the apps, they can actually issue coupons and discount points to the customers. And these discount points can be actually shared with the friends, fans, and so on in the WhatsApp, WeChat, Facebooks, and so on. And SURS is also working together with Enterprise Singapore to conduct workshops for e-commerce transactions. And very quickly, just to round up, basically, if you wondering about e-commerce is like a maze and so on, we do provide trainings with all this competency mapped into one single chart. So if you find that you're lacking of any of this competency, you can come to us for the training itself. And this is another competency map in terms of running promotions in e-commerce. On the right-hand side is all about digital advertising, MarTech, AdTech, and so on. Again, if you're confused and so on, not to worry. This chart actually will show you the roads to doing a proper jobs in the MarTech and AdTech. So the other thing is to highlight is that basically it's like going to e-commerce and so on. It's because you're selling to all, basically the global skills that you need to actually manage diverse employees. And then so you need digital business skills, not so much on creating spreadsheets, but able to read data from the e-commerce sites. And then ability to consider and prepare for multiple scenarios, innovations, and so on. So the key things, co-creativities and brainstorming. Okay, so I will skip this part on the mobile commerce. Basically, as earlier mentioned, you can actually share these kind of coupons and discount points with your friends and so on. Okay, very quickly, I'd like to introduce the first speaker for the day, Mr. Ng Chee Soon. He's the Managing Director of Carousell, right? He will share with us from the perspective of e-commerce business. So I hand over to Chee Soon.
Hey, thank you, David. Good morning, everyone. I'm just trying to fire up my slides. Hope you can see that. Well, my objective today is to give you an overview of e-commerce and also the online classifieds marketplace. Can somebody give me a read back whether the slides are showing up?
Yep, I see the slides.
Okay, thank you. Yep. So before we jump into that, here's a quick background of myself. My name is Chee Soon. I'm the managing director of Carousell in Singapore, and in that role, I'm accountable for the overall success of our business and operation. And before Carousell, I had the privilege of working in some of the most successful organizations, including names that you probably may recognize, like Grab, HP, Compaq, and Sennheiser. Jobs sometimes can be pretty stressful. So to keep some semblance of sanity, I try to find some time to do some sports. For example, I do a little bit of football on weekends. So to jump straight into e-commerce, I thought I'll just share some interesting numbers that we got from a study done by Google, Temasek, and Bain. And in that study, in 2020, the e-commerce gross merchandise value, or GMV in short, reached $62 billion in Southeast Asia. And in this same report, it also projected that this part of the internet economy, e-commerce, is expected to grow to $172 billion by the year 2025. That's a whopping 177% growth. And we all know that, e-commerce has already been on a fairly aggressive growth path even before the COVID-19 situation. But with the pandemic setting on, with lockdowns across the region, it certainly helped to accelerate its adoption and growth. But according to this same report that I cited earlier, this increase in adoption is expected to sustain even post-lockdown all across the region. The phenomenon of growth and the size of e-commerce and how attractive it is isn't necessarily limited to just the region in Southeast Asia. Beyond our shores, we see examples of the boom in e-commerce as well. So just earlier this month, some of you might have read that Alibaba reported stellar financial results that beat analysts' expectations. And a few months prior to that, we saw eBay Classifieds Group being valued at $9.2 billion when it was acquired by Adevinta, making it the world's largest classifieds group. And we also saw a fast-growing second-hand clothes marketplace, Vinted, that's based in Lithuania, being valued at more than $1 billion very recently. But what exactly is e-commerce? We've seen all these stats of how big the e-commerce industry is. Let's take a pause and have a look at what e-commerce really is. Simply put, electronic commerce or e-commerce is a business model that lets businesses and individuals buy and sell things over the internet. And broadly, there are a few key types of e-commerce. B2B is when a business is selling to another business. For example, manufacturers and suppliers selling wholesale merchandise to retailers. B2C, on the other hand, is the more traditional model that everyone is familiar with, similar to buying from physical retail stores. C2C is when a consumer is selling to another consumer. A classifieds marketplace is a common form of this. So an example might be when you're selling your pre-loved item on Carousel, for example. A C2B is a new model that arose with e-commerce, which allows businesses to receive value from consumers when it is traditionally the other way around. It can also be you selling photos to stock photo sites, bloggers charging fees to write about a product. And finally, we have G2C, and that allows access for consumers to receive information, make payments, and even establish a direct line of communication between the government or authoritative body and the consumers it represents. The formats of e-commerce has also evolved with how we use the internet and consume products. We have seen mobile commerce, where you can buy products from your mobile phone, either through an app or a mobile-friendly website. And then we have social commerce, where you can now buy products from social media platforms. And there's also the concept of re-commerce, where businesses either provide a platform to transact second-hand items or sell them to consumers in a B2C format. To further illustrate these aspects, let me now share a little bit about Carousel. I have a hunch that I suppose many of you would already know about Carousel. Some of you may even be active users. Our mission is to inspire every person in the world to start selling and buying to make more possible for one another on a global scale. And also to inspire others to make secondhand their first choice. We are already one of the largest and fastest growing classifieds in the world. In a span of 8 years, we have grown to suddenly become one of the largest and fastest growing in the world. And suddenly, we are already in Southeast Asia, the number one classifieds marketplace. Carousel was founded in 2012. In the first couple of years, we were, basically building our foundations. But the following few years saw us internationalizing, setting up operations in Malaysia, in Indonesia, Taiwan, Hong Kong, and the Philippines. And in the last several years, Carousel spent time building and strengthening verticals such as autos and property, and also consolidating our presence and leadership with the acquisition of OLX in the Philippines, and also the merger with 701 Search entities, Mudah, Chotot, and OneKit. We also started monetizing our platform. And this year, we will be celebrating our 9th birthday. One of the reasons why Carousel has found good traction is how easy it is to sell. You just literally need to snap, list, and sell in just 30 seconds. Anyone can do it. But it was not always that simple. Let me walk you through a brief history of classifieds. Classifieds 1.0 was basically newspapers, and that's where it all started. People used to have to flip the classified section, go through printed text in fixed pages, circle what they wanted, and it took perhaps 30 hours just to create a listing. And then Classifieds 2.0 came along, thanks to the internet. It was now, at that time, desktop-based. You would have rows and rows of text-heavy listings, and it would take perhaps 30 minutes to list. That's not bad at all. You could now search even, and you could list in a much shorter time, definitely, compared to 30 hours in the days of newspapers. Classifieds 3.0 was when the mobile wave disrupted the scene. So 8 years ago, as users of 2.0 got frustrated, our co-founders pioneered 3.0 with a handful of peers. It was a great mobile-first experience. Beautiful photo-based listings, and you could use the mobile sensors to even browse by location. It took just 30 seconds to list. Literally just snap, list, and sell. Certainly very much shorter than 30 hours. But what's next? What are the new set of problems we need to solve? For example, perhaps being not sure of what price to list, how to list or sell faster, how to improve trust. And it is with these problems and how we go about solving them that I think will help define Classifieds 4.0. Carousel is reimagining online classifieds for an AI-first world by making it simpler, quicker, more trusted, and more engaging to sell and buy with people in a community. 4.0 is about 3 pillars: smart, convenience, community. 6 years ago, 7 years ago, 8 years ago, when we started selling a 30-second process, what if we could make it 3 seconds? Perhaps take a photo and done. Friction of listing, pricing is a pain. And if you can open the app, magically you see what you like and want. It is possible because we have over 250 million listings and billions of chat messages. Here are some examples of how we use data to improve our product, both for the customers and also to increase efficiency for the team. For selling experience, we simplify the listing experience for sellers through suggested categories and titles for a given listing image. So all you need to do is to snap a picture, load it, and we attempt to try and give suggestions for the rest. For buying experience, we have personalized listing recommendations based on browsing, search, and purchase behaviors. to enhance shopping experience by recommending similar listings. In the area of trust and safety, we use a third-party tool called Sift Signs to detect potentially fraudulent activities faster and with more accuracy via automation. This helps our team cut down on time spent on manual review and focus on scaling instead. One example workflow is hiding flagged listings while the team does manual review, which helped keep potentially fraudulent listings out of sight and away from good users. We also provide analytics reports to help our merchants be more successful on our platform. And if necessary, we also complement that with a team of client success managers who will coach our merchants and help interpret insights. As the Carousel platform gained wide audience, we also have become an attractive option for advertisers with a range of options. Programmatic advertising is the automated buying and selling of online advertising. With traditional forms of ads, you just buy an ad placement and hope for the best. But here, you can customize the targeting to reach the audience which you know are most likely to convert. An example is the Carousel and the Workforce Singapore job matching campaign that we've been running. We built granular audience segments, for example, admin, sales, drivers, to target the right job seeker profiles and serve relevant job ads through Carousel inventories and audience extension. Carousel also produced creatives that created higher relevance, leading to higher click-through rates. So far, there were 350 new job applications delivered per month and 35,000 clicks delivered to WSG's listings on Carousel, and even 3,000 clicks to mycareerfuture.sg per month. Unfortunately, one of the challenges the industry, not just Carousel, faces is a tech talent crunch. The internet sector is growing rapidly. We've seen a lot more tech giants setting up local offices. However, there are not enough talents to meet the job needs. This is a good opportunity to upskill and join the industry. And for Carousel, we are still growing. We are still hiring, definitely. There are, in fact, many open positions across all areas. With digitalization, there are more and more data captured and insights of behavior being digitalized. Some of the earlier shared features require AI and machine learning. Talents who are passionate and skilled in data will have an advantage in this new normal. We are hiring key data analyst and BI roles at both individual contributor and management levels. So I encourage you to visit our careers page, careers.carousel.com. Don't worry if you have no inclination towards tech roles, as there are also other roles such as business development, finance, marketing as well. And please do check them from time to time to find an ideal role that fits your passion as well. Thank you. I certainly hope that has been helpful.
And the insights, how Carousel is running and so on. Just to let you know, my family members are all hot merchants in Carousels. My wife buys a lot of things. She actually Carousel all her stuff and so on, which she never wear at all before, all clothing, dressings. My son bought limited edition shoes and then sell in Carousel sell Carousel and selling at a high price of $1,000. So it's a very good platform for a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs and so on to run on Carousel. Very good insights sharing. There'll be questions and answers coming in. We will actually leave it to the end of the sessions. We'll come back to you. Thank you, Jason. Right. Next, we'd like to invite Ms. Candice Ong, Chief Commercial Officer from Shopback. and also Lee Tong from Shopback as well. She's the growth marketing strategist, talking about marketing. Welcome. And
Good
I leave
morning,
the session to you.
everyone. Good morning, everyone. And I'm Candice. I'm Lee Tong. Hi. We'll be sharing some insights, perhaps, to what marketing is like in e-commerce, as well as what do interviewers or companies look out for. So let me share screen now. First, I'll do an introduction with respect to Shopback. Shopback is a pre-shopping destination of which users get rewarded when they go through our app to shop on different e-commerce sites. Now, we are also an advertising platform for e-commerces as we drive transactions through our platform to them. The company has been founded in 2014, and now we operate across 9 markets. Now, in my role as Chief Commercial Officer, I'm responsible for driving revenue across the region. I also run marketing teams, largely visual marketing teams, which focus on customer acquisition, customer engagement, lifecycle marketing, as well as product marketing. I first made the switch to the tech space in 2012. My career started actually in investment banking in New York and then Southeast Asia. And I decided to move over 2012 as I felt that the tech industry was abound with possible opportunities. My first role in Zalora was with respect to brand acquisition, brand management, dealing with global brands such as Mango, Nike, and the like. Subsequently, I also took on roles which are more focused on the marketing functions and helped establish visual marketing. In terms of my time as Zalora, I also had the chance to run several projects that were not necessarily marketing or category management, but also in terms of people teams. And I think this was an interesting exposure for me, given that I had an opportunity to understand what the problems of what organization goes through when it seeks to expand and scale. I'd like to hand over now to Lee Tong to share her.
So I'll also give a bit of introduction, and I think in this case, for myself, I'm actually with Shopback for about 1 year plus now, and in my daily roles, I actually work closely with Candice as well as product team, design team, and the data team to kind of like solve the problems that we currently look at, particularly in the area of acquisition of customers, as well as increasing awareness for Shopback and getting more customers. So there are some like product features that actually help us to do that, and those are kind of like the products that we use as growth levers towards driving acquisition as well. Prior to my time at Shopback, I'm actually in the FMCG industry. So previously, I was actually a product marketing lead at L'Oreal. I'm responsible for brand growth and basically lead a few campaigns for some of the household names that you're seeing today in the stores. For example, La Roche-Posay, Vichy, Lancôme, and Kérastase, just like some of the brand names. And yeah, I think I'll hand over back to Candice to look at some of the. Oh, okay. Actually, this is still my part. Sorry. So, actually, like for this part, right, I just wanted to share a bit more about like what growth marketing is. Basically, we actually look at both product marketing as one of the levers for us to get customers and like introduce them to Shopback. One of the particular programs that I encourage you guys to actually use your phone right now and probably scan this QR code to find out more about our referral program. I think in the tech industry, this referral marketing has been one of the key methods that have been very useful in terms of getting customers. So particularly, I think if you guys have heard of Dropbox as well as Airbnb, they've run very, very successful referral campaigns. They also have the potential of going viral as well, for you to really understand more about what the company does, and at the same time, using this referral marketing method to share the good points with your friends. Of course, I think another way to for us to like reach out to more users and also like highlight the great parts about like the company would be through other products as well. So one of the key things that the team in the product team actually developed is this Shopback browser extension. So if, let's say, you were to shop very frequently on your desktop, I also highly encourage you to key in this bit.ly link into your browser and use this kind of like tool that we have developed to shop more efficiently online. What this tool helps you to do is actually to find cashback and coupons more efficiently, and it basically automatically does it for you whenever you are at your shopping journey as well. So that's something that in terms of like what ShopBack provides, as well as how we reach out to users, we actually use these tools to get there. And I think now I'll hand over to Candice to look at what interviewers look out for.
Yeah, so thanks Li Tong for sharing. I think those are examples of where sometimes marketing roles could be different in terms of tech industries, with products that might be very unique to the tech industry as well. I'd like to share a little bit more in terms of what interviewers look out for. Personally, as shared, I have transitioned from the finance industry to the tech industry. Li Tong's transitioned from the FMCG industry to the tech industry as well. As you can see, direct experience is not always necessary. Right, so what do interviewers look out for? I think it's crucial, especially for transitions. Interviewers try to assess if candidates understand why a specific company or a specific role is a good fit, and also understands how their strengths are relevant for a specific role and are able to highlight as such, and how their previous experience might also enable the company to grow further. Right, so I think it's very much on the candidate to develop and demonstrate self-awareness to articulate why an individual wants a specific role, and are they able to also share why they understand they are able to succeed in that role as well, and what they bring to the table. As with different interviews, it's also important for companies to assess what are candidates' potential for the role and what has been the candidate's track record. In the tech industry, whereby there's much fewer individuals with direct experience, the assessment of learning ability is actually very high. Is very important, right? So candidates, it's important for candidates to demonstrate that they are going to be resilient, they are able to learn quickly, and they also have a high bar for excellence. I mean, for candidates that have high bar for excellence, we expect that this will translate in many of their different projects they take on, different roles they take on, right? So in terms of being able to demonstrate self-awareness, being able to demonstrate how they have been able to respond to difficulty and how they're able to learn quickly, these are important traits that interviewers also look out for when there are career transitions. Now, I also want to dispel the context that, for tech companies, there are only tech roles available. With respect to marketing, these are just a sample of what are some of the roles that are available in the marketing teams, right? And you can see that a lot of these roles actually exist in non-tech companies as well. And that's why tech companies would definitely hire from outside just the tech realm. Right, and I think with respect to candidates from similar backgrounds, it's important to again highlight why they would be suitable for the specific company or the specific role, tapping on their varied experience. Now, I also like to share how marketing roles have evolved. I think for marketing, from my vantage point, it used to be much more focused on the likes of creative conceptualization, working with agencies to make media purchases, focus on awareness and engagement, as well as driving brand advocacy. I think in the digital arena, whereby there is a lot of reliance on data, I think Chee Soon also mentioned about the importance of data in this new norm. The context of problem solving and how marketing can contribute to different objectives, including revenue, becomes increasingly important. And with this is the context of how do you use data to experiment with respect to new channels, new methods, to drive outcomes. That marketing roles have really evolved, right? So marketing roles are seen to be very important in the tech industry to drive strategic objectives. But with that, to be able to do that, it's also important for individuals to understand whether they are making good decisions. And I would say the bar to understand how to use data to make decisions will be pretty high. I think in this day and age as well, there's a lot more own channels, especially in social media. So in terms of being able to come up with content in-house, to be able to have meaningful and creative concepts that drive effectiveness in-house is also important. And I think this is contrasted to perhaps 2 decades ago, whereby media purchases are seen more with an alliance with an agency. Right. So again, I shared that in terms of career transitions from non-tech to tech in marketing is actually pretty common. And frankly, there are very few individuals with direct experience. So it's very much about learning fast and demonstrating learning agility. Now, I think in terms of learning as well, it's not always a straightforward path. It's about learning from mistakes and learning from failures, right? And for individuals who are able to learn quickly, both from wins and losses, I think the growth is pretty tremendous. It's also important to have a range of knowledge and range of experiences across different problem sets, so that we are better able to have different tools to solve problems with the organization, right? Of course, with respect to more senior roles, the depth of expertise on specific expertise areas would be important as well. So in terms of marketing, I think what would be an ideal candidate in this day and age is someone that can learn fast, has a breadth of knowledge across different marketing realms, but is also an expert in at least one domain area. I'll hand over now to Li Tong, who I think has made a very successful transition from FMCG to the tech industry.
Thank you, Candice. Okay, so I actually saw some of the questions that you guys have in terms of your experience and advice to move from tech to non-tech sector, or maybe non-tech to tech sector as well. So maybe I'll just give a little bit of sharing in terms of FMCG. I think this is just some images from my time 4 years in L'Oreal. I think some photos here actually show that on my daily work itself, at times it might look like it's very nice and glorious, right? So it's like holding press events as well as holding training sessions, as well as launching Atrium sales and things like that. So that is kind of some parts of FMCG kind of role. At the same time, I think in terms of what an FMCG role entail is also on this front that I believe is also quite transferable to a tech industry. So for example, when we do certain launches back in FMCG, it would be on collecting and analyzing consumer and market insights and competition strategies. At the same time, looking at marketing mix strategies here, which is with regards to digital or even retail 360 components towards launching a campaign. Of course, on this third part would be on orchestrating the launch, pushing growth of pillar products. In this case, would be the ones that are actually highly monetizable. And at the same time, on the forefront would be working with different stakeholders to get to the end goal that we want. In this case, in FMCG environment would be on sales, logistics, education, and even agencies as well. Last but not least, I think from my time back in L'Oreal as well, it would be to manage budget as well as to ensure sales and forecast accuracy. So I think in terms of looking at skill sets, it would be useful to look at what are existing skill sets that might be transferable. So on my next slide, I'll just share with you in terms of how I perceived it when I was looking at career transition. I think I asked myself basically 3 main questions. So what do I like doing, right? Based on my role previously, I think I uncovered the fact that I actually really like to understand consumer behavior and how that ties to business decisions as well. And the second question that I asked myself was, what am I good at? So I think the second part is actually on creative problem solving. I really like understanding what the pain points of consumers are, and therefore being able to speak to them in the right way and kind of introduce the right product solutions that the company has. And last but not least, I also asked myself, what do I want to get better at? Just like you, I think 1.5 years ago, I was thinking about what are the future industries, what are some of the problem statements that I foresee in few years' time, it will still be present. And I think in this case, I was really looking at how can I get better in marketing science? So for example, how do we calculate customer acquisition cost? and things like that. At the same time, also to learn from individuals that have been very good at this area in terms of getting a stronger business sense as well. So with these 3 questions that I've asked myself and the answers that I have, I then take certain actions towards getting there. So one of the interviews, it would be with ShopBack, and I think I would like to share with you guys in terms of what I did to getting up to speed as well, since that was actually something that you guys were curious about. So first and foremost, I was looking at, understanding the industry, getting up to speed in terms of like what are the gaps that I'm not aware about. I think Chee Soon also mentioned that looking at the e-commerce report from Google Economy Southeast Asia report was actually very useful to get certain key numbers for you to understand how this actually industry works. And at the same time, you could also look at some of the common e-commerces or tech industry that you have readily access to, right? So for example, as a consumer yourself, what have you noticed about these companies in terms of trends? What are the initiatives that have been particularly successful for them? Third thing was also to read news about the company that you're interviewing for. Of course, I think you want to ask yourself, what do they need now, as well as what are things that you can gather from the reports. I think one thing that I wanted to highlight was that, like, in terms of transferable skill sets, refining the resume is actually a very good way to approach it. So I think for my side, I think even though previous industry that I was in is in FMCG, I took note about the initiatives that I led with regards to digital, right? So I think I looked at specifically how I drove certain launches with the likes of Shopee and Lazada, how I created an e-commerce SOPs, as well as visual representation on an e-commerce front. I think in terms of highlighting those aspects that has digital aspect would actually help to gain extra credits when they look at your resume at first glance. Second part was actually on preparation on case study and interviews. I think this is something that you should probably expect in the tech industry, the rigorous process of an interview. But that being said, like, preparation should be quite easy if, let's say, you roughly know what you want to go for. So for example, solidifying the reasons on why you want to join, and at the same time explaining if you have transferable skill sets, for example, and if you have actually upskilled in certain areas that the industry is using, like SQL or even Python or Amplitude as well. And I think last but not least, at the interview stage would be useful to kind of show your thought process in terms of elaborating on the case study that they reached out for. And last but not least, of course, an interview is a two-way conversation. So if we have any questions about the industry, particularly on like the landscape and questions that are actually food for thought, I think that actually helps to leave an impression as well. So I think on my side, this is something that I felt useful to share. And I think at this point, I just also felt like mindset shift to me is actually the most important. Candice mentioned that in the tech industry, they also look out for people in different previous industry experience, because there are roles that the tech industry need to continuously acquire users. And I think in this case, mindset shift would be the most important. So I think I encourage you guys to actually look at this TED Talk. This speaker was actually explaining how in terms of looking at trying is actually a lot more important, because if you don't try, you will always have this fear or question about what ifs. So I think in this case, it's actually useful to think about having a mindset shift. So I'll just end off with food for thought. I think my sister was also looking at career transition. So she was telling me things that I hear, for example, saying that she doesn't have the relevant skills, or that she feels like she's not good enough, don't have the right connections. I think like with this presentation that we have, we could sum up with a few points. Basically, in terms of values that the 21st century need, and I quote Dylan So in this case, would be adaptability, creativity, resilience, and courage, because the tech industry is always trying to solve problems. And in this case, the world actually will not run out of jobs. It will never, to rephrase, the world will actually run out of jobs, but like it will never run out of problems to solve for. And I think the tech industry is particularly strong in this area. And to just sum it up, this is probably one of the good takeaways to have. And with that, I think we'll end off our presentation. And if there's any questions, I believe there's a Q&A section at the end, so you could reach out to us that way. Thank you.
If all of you actually follow the conversations, the presentations, right, you can actually see that Chisun actually is doing a recruitment drive. He's trying to hiring a number of tech specialists and so on. And if you follow the conversations with Candice and Liton, I see that they actually are good career coach, right? They actually guide you how to actually get the jobs and so on, right? So make friends with them. I believe today in the e-commerce world or in the digital world, you can actually easily contact them. I believe at this time, their LinkedIn profile will be very busy now. Everyone want to make friends with them. Right, next, I'd like to introduce to you Dahi. Dahi is the director of UX Rescue. Sounds like it's an emergency team department, right? She's also a design researcher with Coupon. Coupon is the leading delivery service, if I'm not wrong, in Korea. And I believe she has a lot to share about UX in e-commerce and how she actually rescue the business and for everyone. Yeah. Dahi, go ahead.
Thank you, David, and nice to meet you, everyone. I believe everyone can see my screen, so that's great. Okay, so again, I'm Dahi. I'm a senior UX researcher at Coupang and also a director at UX Rescue. So before I begin to talk about the topic that we are going to discuss today, I'd like to talk a little bit about myself. So again, I'm Dahi, and my career started from studying human brains because they are fascinating, aren't they? And I learned that research is really cool. So after as I was finishing my study, I got a job at health and fitness company as a UX intern. And as I was learning more about UX, everything made so much sense. And fortunately, I became a UX researcher at Lifetime, the fitness company in the States. And after a few years working as a UX researcher at the Lifetime, I found that I need to get out of my comfort zone. So I hit the road, and I was mostly in South America for 2 years. I was working as a kind of research consultant in a lot of different tourism companies. And after my 2 years in South America, I moved to Australia, and I started the volunteer initiative called the UX Rescue, because I've seen so many things that are going on in the world that is not getting enough attention that it needed. So that's what UX Rescue is about. It's a volunteer initiative that connects UX practitioners and professionals to the organization that are in need. And now I'm back in my home country, which is South Korea, and I'm working at an e-commerce company called Coupang as a UX researcher. So I've heard that there's a lot of people from a lot of different countries calling in today. So for those who haven't heard about Coupang, as David introduced, Coupang is a leading e-commerce company in South Korea. And surprisingly, that a lot of people haven't heard about Coupang. In Korea, everywhere you go, you see Coupang boxes, you see Coupang trucks, you see Coupang delivery men everywhere. Every other people are using Coupang. So let's dive into more of a UX. So for those who are not familiar with the concept of UX, UX stands for user experience, and user experience encompasses all aspects of the end user's interaction with the company, its service, and its product. So basically all the experiences that you have. So this is why there is professionals for the UX industry. So we're only one user, and a lot of times we see a product, we feel something, we do have pain points, and we think we know everything. But we know everything, and there goes what we think users do. And this is what I do. I do the test, I do the research, and I actually find out these are what users actually do. So if I'm one type of user, there's a million types of users. So I show you what other million types of users do. So why does it matter? That's because bad UX costs too much to risk. 88% of people are less likely to return to a website with bad UX, which is not a surprising fact. And also, it is too efficient not to do. 85% of the problems, big problems, can be fixed by testing only 5 users. And that's like testing one user can take up to like, as short as 5 minutes to as long as 1 or 2 hours. So how efficient is that? And UX can be found even outside of technology realm. You probably walked into a store and you might have seen this. What's your experience like? For one, as one type of user, when I see this, like, unless I really need something from this store, I wouldn't really bother to go through all this, like mass in the store. And this is what users see when they walk into the website or mobile application. And if they have the bad UX, this is what they see and this is what they feel. So let's talk more about how is UX used in e-commerce. So UX is used to find the perfect balance. So there are business goals. As Chisun mentioned, for Carousel, they are looking for these kind of different goals. They have every phase. I believe version 4 was talking more about the personalization and providing more excellent services and personalized services using data. So there are these business goals. And business goals often don't really reflect the user needs. So I, as a UX researcher, go in and I study user needs and I study how users actually do things. So I find out the pattern in users' needs and then behavior, and then we check with the technical feasibility. So in the ideal world, we want people to just find what they're looking for right away without any kind of, without any kind of distraction. We want to give them the product, even they realize that they need that. So, but sometimes that's just not feasible because of the technical feasibility. So as a UX researcher, I go in, I hear the business goal from the stakeholders, I talk to users, and lastly, I talk to developers and then all the people from technical side and find out the perfect balance and make the suggestion. So this is how we do the task part. This is called double diamond, which is very classic methodology in UX. So first, we focus on finding the right problem by discovering and defining, because without focusing on the right problem, you can't really come to the right solution. So once we find out the right problem, then we go on finding the right solution by doing the prototyping, testing, and refining. And we do a lot of iterations. So even though we, let's say, launch this A feature, it doesn't stop at launching it. We always go back to the first circle of double diamond, and then we research again, analyze, synthesize if there's any problem and what is the right problem, and go for the right solution. So these are the methodologies that we use. As you can see, there's a lot of them, and we choose them based on the ask from the business side and the condition that we have for each project and each research. So sometimes we just simply sit and watch them, observe their users' behavior by tracking where they are looking at, or doing the usability testing, which is give users a task, and while they are using the mobile applications or websites, we see where they click and where they face pain points and stuff. And the big one is the difference between quantitative and qualitative, and good research usually have both, because quantitative, as Jisun and Candice mentioned, data matters so much these days. And while data can reveal so much, data sometimes doesn't give you why users are doing what they are doing. So that's when the qualitative is being used. That's when I go in and I study, why are you doing what you're doing? So let me give you an example. Just have a look at this website. And that was one of the tasks that we do, which is 5-second task. What do you remember? Just think it to yourself. And some people might have remembered this TV. Some people might have remembered this cosmetic. Some people might remember, shipping option. And these are the things that we test. And let's say the business asked, oh, we are trying to increase the sales of TV. And a lot of people say, oh, I recall TV. Then that's off to a good start. Then we will start learning more about, what did you learn about TV and how can we design a process so that it won't stop at, like I remember a TV to they actually go and then buy a TV. So at UX, it not only covers the part where users use the website and app, it also covers the whole customer journey of how to attract prospect customers to making them a repeated customer to create loyalty. And if they are becoming an at-risk customer or lapsed customer, how do we bring them back? How do we reactivate them? Those are all under UX realm. So we talked a lot about the business side, and one thing in UX that matters the most is, according to Kupang's words in our reader's principle, is wow the customer. There is no user experience without talking to user. And according to Donald Normal, user-centered design means working with your users. So let's talk more about how to get into UX, because I'm assuming a lot of people might be interested in it. So according to NN Group, the number of UX professionals in the world are increasing very dramatically, and it will only grow. So before you jump in, just have a time to think about what role do you want to play. There are so many roles in UX industry, but these two are main roles, which is UX designer and UX researcher. They have very different skills and they have very different mindset as well. So I would highly recommend for you to have a sit and then actually think about it before you move to the next step, which is to network. And this networking can also go into while you're doing self-reflection and trying to decide which role is right for you. I can guarantee you this. There aren't many things that I can guarantee, but this I can guarantee. There's no better time than today to network online. And tomorrow it will be better. The day after tomorrow, it's going to be even better. There are so many design communities. There are so many UX communities that you can meet a lot of professionals across the globe. Like you're in Singapore, you're in Korea, and you can meet UX professionals who are working in Facebook, Instagram, in San Francisco Bay. It's become so much easier. So go out there, talk to these people through these networking channels. And also think about what's your area of interest. We are talking about e-commerce today, but there are so many other areas that can catch your interest. So do think about that. And if you don't have any background in UX, which is extremely common in UX industry, there is no certain background. You can always start learning from bootcamp, university courses, and also you can volunteer with UX Rescue. So there are many channels that you can give it a shot. And that's all I have for today. Thank you. And as David said, let's stay connected. You can find me on LinkedIn, and you can also find me on Clubhouse. And I guess we now have question time, which is exciting.
So let's get back to invite all the speakers back to the stage. Okay, I will go to the first question. Seems like it's direct to the MD level, Chisun, right? How was the e-commerce been affected by the financial slowdown of major markets such as Japan and US?
Well, ironically, when a pandemic of such scale sweeps through the world, the assumption, of course, is that it changes the world, and oftentimes in a very negative way. But we've also seen that it's about adjustment. Life need to go on, and as it turned out, the e-commerce world, in fact, benefited somewhat from the situation. And if you recall, one of the data point I shared drawn from the report by Google, Temasek, and Bain showed that the adoption of e-commerce services actually increased during the lockdown periods. And when asked, these same users also said that they would continue to do so. So I would say that, of course, there were some adjustments. There were some, needed pivots within, e-commerce companies, services companies. But by and large, I think the demand and also the adoption actually increased during the period.
Absolutely spot on, because for Singapore alone, according to readings, e-commerce actually went up by 30%. But against the shift of the product category change to essential goods. But looking at the question, right, is Japan and US. Why Japan and US? I'd like to actually highlight there's one country you should actually look into, which is China. China today, they have 400 million middle class. And if it's not because of pandemics, all these 400 million people actually travel around the world. Big population. In fact, I saw one of the video from Jack Ma with Mr. Obama in one of the conference. Jack Ma actually jokingly tell Obama about 2 years ago, Mr. President, do you know that actually our middle class is much bigger, population is much bigger than US? And Mr. Obama has to just smile, So basically is that we have to relook at the geography areas. In fact, China market is not affected by this pandemic. During these ISO committee meetings conducted 1 month ago, all the countries were discussing about e-commerce and so on. And to the Chinese, they say, what pandemic? We are flying as usual. We are buying things as usual. We are going out to the visiting and so on as usual. If you observe the recent the Chinese New Year, right? The Chinese actually travel a lot and they buy things. But once the pandemic's over, mind you, they actually go around the world. So relook at the market itself, right? China is a big market you can actually look into. Okay, Chisun, seems like you have a lot of questions. The next question is that we have put much effort into building e-commerce system, particularly to push more listing and marketplace setup. So the question is, what are the efforts being done to develop the order fulfillments and listing from the security aspects?
Yeah, well, I mean, you mentioned yourself that you and your family are major users.
Yep.
So you would understand that Carousell is very much an open marketplace where buyers and sellers can list their own items, and in fact, they also manage their own fulfillment. And traditionally, it could be meetups, it could be mailing, but usually in a very community-oriented setting. But regardless, like all e-commerce platforms, of course, as the platform gains traction with people from all walks of life using it, trust and safety becomes ever more important consideration. Combating fraud, unfortunately, is also like an arms race, right? It is not like you can be 10 steps ahead. Scammers innovate, in fact, as quickly as we do, maybe even quicker sometimes, right? And that's why we're always investing in infrastructure, in tools, and we fine-tune our methods and also our features with whatever latest cutting-edge technology there is out there. So you saw in an example that I also shared in my presentation that we use technologies such as those from Safe Signs to automate some of the I suppose listings moderation efforts that we have. Again, if you recall, we have something like 250 million listings on our platform, right? And adding new ones all the time. You can imagine, if you were to do it any way close to a manual process, no way you can be responsive, right? So of course we try and automate some of these, and we complement it with a team of manual moderators who and also we tap on the cooperation of the community as well, right? So we set up areas where users can actually flag listings, or users even if they sense anything amiss or fraudulent in nature, or they smell a rat, and that's when we could automatically maybe hide the listings while our manual teams embark on investigating the claims and the flags.
Right. So to add on to Chisun's point, right? Basically, Carousell, he already assured everyone they have fraudulent measures against anyone who wants to cheat and so on. And it's beside the manual team, they have the automation. When you say automation, actually behind, I believe, is cognitive AI. bots and so on actually to keep tracks of all the transactions and so on. So basically, rest assured, with the cognitive AI coming in, the world is getting safer. Again, it's very popular. I think Carousell is a very popular platform. That's why another question for Chisun. Is Carousell's main target customer people looking for second-hand goods, or how can you compete with other e-commerce platforms like Shopee and Alibaba? Sorry, I think this question is either merchants or from your competitors.
No, I think that's a really good question, right? I mean, with so many options in the market, I suppose the consumer is spoiled for choice. But of course, when you look at the history of Carousell, our very genesis was on the basis that we believe that there is a world where people can start easily selling and buying, and that's why that C2C was our original platform that we grew from. But guess what? As the community grew, as the buyers start increasing, it also started becoming more attractive to merchants, right? Who are looking for a big pool of buyers to sell their wares to. So now we have become more and more, if you may, all things for everyone, right? So, for example, you can also buy a car, you can look for a house. If you're a newly married couple, you buy a house, and then you buy a car. You can also look for renovation services, home cleaning services. So, in fact, our data tells us that today, our services categories are growing so well that when we do user research, people often tell us that whatever to do with home services, for example, the first place they go to is Carousell. So I don't think it's so much about direct competing with, the more traditional e-commerce platforms, but really it is about providing an end-to-end, sets of services and products that maps very well into life stages, and different needs of a consumer. And ultimately, if you think about it as a consumer, you really don't care whether I buy from an e-commerce platform or another consumer, right? What you're looking for is whether the service that I'm looking for, the products that I'm looking for, or if you're a collector of old items, perhaps that's the way to go, right? That's the only place where you can find bona fide, unique items that you can't find anywhere else.
Right. Very well said. I just want to add on, basically, it's a good platform for ladies especially. Today, you go into any of these platforms, basically you like a lot of these products. Most of the time, you hesitate to buy the products. But now with the Carousell, right, I'm looking at my wife, she actually no-brainer. She'll see it, she like it, she bought it. And when she receives it, she doesn't like it, she Carousell. And definitely there will be other users who actually like it. So basically, Carousell is a good platform for you to encourage you to buy more and sell more, right? To boost up the economy, right? Okay, I will let Chisun rest for a while. The next question is about how can people ensure that they are receiving good quality goods? I think maybe Tahi can answer this question from the user experience.
How can people ensure they're using good quality goods? When saying goods, are we talking about products or
products? Let's say they go into the website, they see that actually the picture is very nice, but once they receive it, the colors has changed, the size has changed, even the packaging looks very sloppy. So how do we actually ensure that you are receiving good quality goods?
Yeah, this is actually a huge challenge because a lot of sellers usually post pictures that are very desirable, and when they receive it, sometimes it's not really the same. So it definitely falls under the quality assurance and also customer service side, which we do research for. So we do the research and we try to optimize the most seamless and easiest customer service experience. So when they receive the product, obviously it's not really pleasant experience. So how can we do the price management and change it, flip it to the pleasant experience of coupon. So
Yep.
they usually go to their app, they open the coupon, and they will find the customer service and refund and return processes. How can you make this the easiest? So even though we might not have 100% control over sellers' honesty, but we have control over our app, our customer service. So we try to control what we can control.
Very good answers. So I would like to add on the different perspective. For SIRS, we do conduct training for Alibaba. So each time the trainers fly over from China, instead of learning from them, they get a lot of criticisms from Singapore consumers. They will actually question the trainers, how come we always receive inferior products and so on. So actually they give a very good advice. The trainers say basically is that you go to the shops, looks at their rating. If you think that products is so cheap and good and so on, but look at the ratings, look at the reviews and comments, then you will know that whether this seller, the merchants, are selling authentic products, whether they have the good experience with the customers and so on. So this is another way of ensuring you getting good quality goods. Basically, is that looking at the rating of the stores. Right. Thank you, Dahi. Right. There's a question posed to our career advisors. Sorry. Candice and Litong, right? Can you share your experience and advice on how to move to tech from non-tech sectors as you have experienced?
Presentation we had, we also covered some of the key experiences that Litong went through in terms of moving from non-tech to tech. Perhaps on my side, I could share a little bit as well. So in terms of moving from finance to tech, I think the main transferable skill sets are twofold. One would be in terms of data fluency, and two in terms of being fairly, I would say, having a very high threshold for pain coming from investment banking in terms of hours being able to put on, as well as in terms of being able to be fairly analytical to solve problems. But I think in terms of reaching out my hand or holding my hand up for opportunities that are in terms of problems that organizations are trying to solve for, was a useful way for me to grow, but also a useful way for me to demonstrate value. I think in terms of that time period, it was 2012, whereby there really isn't much relevant experience, individuals with relevant experience at all. I think that initiative or demonstration is pretty relevant, but I think that is still important in today's day and age.
Right. So basically, is that if you need more advice how to do the switches along the way and so on, feel free to reach out to Candice and Litong. So there's another question about support for mid-career switch persons in this sector. I believe I can answer this question. I'm from SIRS, Singapore Institute of Retail Study. We actually do praise and train, or train and praise, right? So basically, we will actually do the transition for you from one career to another one, from tech to non-tech, non-tech to tech, and so on. So later on, at the end of the session, stay with us. I have a program with SIRS. You'll be paid 1,200 Sing dollars per month for 6 months for learning. At the same time, we will place you in a company, right? So basically, not to worry about, I've been in this traditional business for a long time and so on, but we have this kind of transition for you. Just to give an example, this is an example from one of the platforms, e-marketplace. The GM actually shared the experience when we place a 45 years old professional to work in this e-marketplace. Okay, just to let you know, it's Q10, right? So after 6 months of the mid-career person actually got jobs in one of the bigger company doing e-commerce. But before he left the EQ10, right, he sent a thank you note to the GM. Said, thank you so much for all these 6 months of bashing, criticism, and also all the things that you have put me in. But in the end, it turned out to be a much better person. So earlier, you hear from Candice all this, right? You need to be fast learner, all this, which is very true. Regardless of age, right? Going to the tech, non-tech to tech is not an issue. It's that you need to be a fast learner. So we have a business, right, selling the traditional medical hall products and so on. She's in her mid-50s or late 50s, right? She attend a live streaming training from us. her Facebook live streaming is moving from 130 views to 30,000 views. And we invite her for talks and so on, right? She's able to show data analytics from Facebook. At first, I cannot imagine, I hope she's not here, but I really cannot imagine a mid-50 person can do data analytics from Facebook, right? So age is not an issue. Mid-career switch is not an issue. It's whether you're a fast learner. All right, very quickly, I will go to the next question. I think this one is open to all. Anyone can answer, Chisun, Candice, or Tahi, and so on. What are the main marketing challenges now with the pandemic? Anyone want to take up these questions?
Given we were talking about marketing, perhaps I give it a shot. So I think in terms of marketing, it's about relevance to customer. So it's very much around how can we stay relevant in terms of how we are speaking to our customers during the pandemic, right? So in terms of behavioral changes, this could be about how do we address concerns around health? How do we address messaging around essential goods? And how can advertisers that are more focused on travel still be relevant? And we see a pivot towards perhaps experiences instead of overseas travel, local attractions. We see a focus towards cost-conscious purchases and a stronger emphasis on fitness as well as essential goods. So I would say that it's not so much about the pandemic per se, but relevance to the customer given the context. And also because of increased unpredictability during this time period, there is also stronger cost consciousness with respect to advertisers as well. So in terms of making sure that there is effectiveness in efforts, I think that is where there's increased scrutiny. So if we have to summarize two things, one is what are the new ways to be relevant to the customer during this change? How do we make sure that cost is properly managed due to a time of increased unpredictability? Yeah.
Right. Very good answers. Just to tag along what Candice has shared, the marketing challenges from the pandemic is a lot of time, I think it's the lockdown, there are less traffic in the mall and so on. Moving forward, actually, there's a lot of things to do with facial recognitions, cognitive AI, and so on, right? So, so we actually work with a company called Amobi. It's DSP, DMP, and SSP companies who actually connect the consumer consumption of content, video content, with the customers. They can tell, for example, in the East and West, most likely people who will actually consume the contents for Nike. And in the middle, actually, is Pumas, right? Or Adidas. So basically, with the insights, they can actually help to do the digital advertisings in the right areas. So for example, if I want to push for more sales, right? The messages I will actually advertise only in the East and West. But if I want to do conversions for Adidas customers to Nike, then I will actually advertise in the central regions of Singapore. That will actually reduce the advertising cost, but actually reach out to the right audience. Okay, the next question, is e-commerce possible to fuse with the agricultural sector? Anyone like to answer this? E-commerce fused with agricultural sector. If not, I would like to answer. This one is very interesting question. Okay, if you actually read the news, what is Huawei doing recently, right? They actually go into pig farming. Huawei is a very interesting company. They are not a telco company. They're actually a technology company using AI. So with the AI, they actually run pig farming with no man manning the pig farm. With the facial recognition, they can recognize the pigs, right? Whether they're happy that day, not happy that day, fit more, fit less, pipe in with different music and so on. So yes, the question to you, the answer to the question is that e-commerce will actually fuse with the agriculture sectors. If you go to the Alibaba trip with us, right, if it opens and so on, you can see that there's a big screen showing that the Alibaba platform actually connects to all the farmers in all the remote places. So today's in the big cities in Shanghai, Beijing, they're actually having fresh fruits all delivered from all the remote places. And all the remote places, they are getting richer and richer because of the access to the big cities and so on. And how do they do it? They even go to the extent of real time, showing how do the potato grow up, how does the eggs looks like, so that everyone will start bidding for the egg, for the potato, and increase the price for the potatoes. So Singapore, you can actually try it. Maybe you can start some small farming. put the videos all around the clock, 24 hours, and then people will actually start to bid for that products from you. Okay, right. The next one is that how do you, what's the most important aspects to develop e-commerce literacy? For that, I think I will answer myself. To develop e-commerce literacy, my answer to you is that come to SURF for training. Simple answer. Later on, I'll share with you how we can actually do it. How about customer complaints? How do you deal with them? Anyone want to answer? I believe all of you will face customer complaints, Coupang, Shopback, and Carousel.
It's very contentious sometimes, right? People shy away from complaints. But actually, interestingly, within Carousel, our culture sort of embraces that quite a fair bit. In fact, our founders and our key leadership team often encourage our people to specifically seek out feedback and even complaints, right, from our customers. Because we've also learned through our own experience that oftentimes, we try to build in, improvements to our products based on our own analysis. But every now and then, the gems of insights come from customer complaints. So we regularly go out to meet customers to try and actually uncover these gems.
If I can add on to this, I love what Jason said. That is UX right there. Just go out there, hear what users are saying. So like we actually in UX, in a lot of teams, we do look at these complaints that are coming in and we see, what is the item that we can work on right now to change it, to make the experience better. So yeah, it's really amazing to hear it from, someone who's at Jason's career level, actually actively seeking out that complaint. That's amazing.
Right, very good answer. Candice, anything you want to share?
Yeah, I think in terms of customer feedback, that's crucial for us to understand how to improve our product and services, understand gaps. So we actually have, of course, customer service teams, but just to add on what might be different, we also have this thing called the country GM survey, of which on a random sampling, reach out to customers that just signed up to understand better in terms of where they heard of us as well as their experience with it. But I think in terms of customer centricity, I think this is the core of many businesses as well. And I think tech also enables that.
Right.
For SSD data available.
Yeah, very good questions. Customer complaints is very important. You need to deal with it. But sometimes there's too many customer complaints. It will actually affect your store ratings, okay? E-commerce store ratings. My previous experience, actually, eBay closed down my store for one of the company. Almost lose my job, right? So how we deal with it, from that onwards, we actually encourage a lot of reviews and comments. So in the end, we get more than 10,000 reviews and comments for our sites. Any one of the bad reviews, comments, right, never surface up. And it will never affect the store ratings. So my encouragement for all the merchants, be it in Carousel or other platforms, right, all the times encourage customer reviews and comments, right? Whether good or bad and so on, these good reviews will actually, sorry to say, cover up the bad reviews. And your store rating will not be affected. Right, because of time considerations, I will have the one more questions for Tahi, right? This is, I think, will help everyone. Tahi, can you elaborate more on UX volunteer?
Yeah, I see a lot of questions coming in. I will keep it short. You can apply even if you're not Korean. Actually, you have to speak English. So not every Korean can apply if they don't speak English. So it's global initiative. You can check more. I don't think we have time to cover everything. So you can check more at simply going to uxrescue.org, or you can connect with me on LinkedIn and you can ask more questions as well.
Right. Okay. Because of the times considerations, I see a lot of questions. I believe that because of the experts here, the speakers, they are so knowledgeable, it actually generates a lot of interest. So I believe that we'll take down all the questions and these experts will actually provide the answers. Leave your names and email feedbacks and so on with LearnTech Asia. I think after they collect the answers from us, they will actually reply to you. So before we leave, right, I'd like to share with you the one more slides that I think is a very interesting thing for all the people here. Can you see my slides?
No. Now we can.
No?
Yep.
All right. Just to recap, basically, we provide trainings for all those who think that they are non-tech. In fact, all these trainings, they are non-tech, okay? But helping you to transit your careers to become, to work in the tech companies. We don't teach coding, programming, but we teach you strategy concepts. So we see a lot of successful business doing very well in all the platforms. So we have a program called SGUS program. So this is a program for 6 months for Singapore citizens and PR to upskill and reskill themselves, right? So 2 areas. One is the retail. Retails, currently we are working with BHG. If you go to the BHG Bugis Junction level 1, you can see that it's been transformed into a digital experience with magic mirrors and so on, right? The other track is on digital and leadership skills. So we also trained all the mid-career switches. You are fully paid at $1,200 for 6 months to pick up all the skills, and then we will do the placement, right? So these are all the subsidies. And if you're interested, you can actually do the scanning. Besides this program, we have other programs, even for business, right? You are expanding, you need talents and so on, you can come to us. We have something like job placement and training, right? So we actually help to subsidize the salary, $3,000 to $6,000, up to 90% of the salary. We also actually encourage merchants like yourself, send your people for our trainings. Besides the trainings have been highly subsidized by SkillFuture Singapore, 90%. They will be also paid with learning allowance, meaning is that, for example, if they come in for 8 hours, I think at one time they are paying like $10 or $17 per hour, I can't remember. But in the end, as a business, you do not need to actually pay for the salary of your employees while they attend the training. Right. Thank you so much for your attention. I will hand this back to LearnTech Asia, Charlie.
Thank you so much, David. Thank you, Candice, Lee Tong, Chi Soon, and Dahi for the sharing session and conversation on the opportunities in e-commerce. The behind-the-scenes insights on the various platforms, marketing, business needs, and user experience is critical in helping us understand what is important to users. And that leads to the continued growth of the e-commerce sector. So thank you so much for sharing your knowledge on that. And also, thanks for sharing with our audience your stories and steps of how to transition from outside of tech into roles in the e-commerce sector, all the way from resume through the interview stage. The takeaway of there will never be a shortage of jobs because there will never be a shortage of problems to solve for is quite empowering. So thank you very, very much for your time here today. And thanks to Carousel, Shopback, Coupang, and Sears for their support in having you here. We had a great audience turnout today. Thanks to the audience for your questions, which drove the conversation. We're actually planning a workshop on e-commerce in May, so stay tuned for details on that. So that wraps up LearnTech Asia's Learn with Expert webinar. Access to Jobs webinar on e-commerce. I'd like to thank LearnTech Asia colleagues Sao Fong, Renji, and Shihui, who are backstage and working hard to make these valuable sharing sessions happen. For those of you who missed any of this session, we'll be posting a video of this discussion on learntechasia.com. If you found this valuable, please be sure to follow us on our social media channels and sign up for our newsletter to get the latest stories and webinar announcements on learning innovation in Asia. We also have a call for stories. So if any of you who participated in the webinar today has any sort of thought leadership pieces that you'd like to share with us, we'd love to discuss that with you also. My name is Charlie Darapak, the editor-in-chief of LearnTech Asia. See you next time.